10 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all ayes, motion carries. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all ayes, motion carries.
We had 3 proposals for the roof project that were submitted in a timely fashion. The first one you looked at when Marcus, the representative from Hedberg and Son, brought that up. The other 2 I got last Friday, and I have not opened them, so if you want to do that now. The first one is from, oh, this is a different project, sorry, we only got 2. This is a proposal, by the way, from an individual who looked at that tuck pointing areas that we talked about. I have
Who did you get? Who submitted?
Hometown Security from Calendar. It's Wanda Copland's husband. He does truck pointing and that type of thing. So we're down to 2 bids. This one is from R.L. Kraft, and his proposal $49,745.
This is just for the roof.
Yeah. And Hedberg and Sons' proposal was $54,380.
And that proposal's, that's for the roof? Or-
Just for the roof. Now, I haven't had a chance to look at the Kraft proposal. I don't know if they meet the criteria for the specs or not, so I would suggest that we acknowledge the bids and give us a week to mull them over and take action next week, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, we'll have Mark and look at these.
Yeah.
Looks like the warranties on the material are similar, as I recall, are both initially 20 years.
Mhm.
This is a matter of whether the product specs are the same or not.
Exactly, in the application.
Do you want this in the form of a motion to table? I would like to do that. I'll make the motion to table this for further consideration of specification and materials.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded to delay the bid for roof replacement till next week. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
Morning.
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 John, you can come forward.
Oh,
Yeah.
it wasn't until 10:30, so.
Ten
We're ahead of
fifteen.
schedule already.
10:15, you were.
Well, I already stopped at the auditor's office and left copies for you all.
Good.
Wanted to show you our new book. How you all doing today?
Good. How about you?
Good. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Now, one of the things we're very happy about this year is these books that we published. These were previously made available to drainage counties through a company called Map Parrot, which is, I think Waterloo or Cedar Rapids or something like that. Anyway, Map Parrot, I contacted them and they indicated that, you know, their business plan had changed and they really had no desire to do a new copy. And the copies that were out there were 20 plus years old and hadn't been redone in a long, long time. So I had some auditors approach me and say, you know, is this something IDDA could take on? It would be a great service to have new books. So I went out and found a publisher who was willing to work with us. And it's not hard to get the information's online. But the difficult thing is you've got to pull it all off the state website and then reformat it for a size that fits this book. So it is very labor intensive in terms of getting the information transferred into a new format. But we found a publisher who was willing to do that and priced the books out, and we thought it was doable. The first question we had was that the old books were both road and drainage laws. So the question, of course, as the Drainage Association is, do we want to include the road laws, you know, because of the extra cost? Was that really necessary? So we priced the books both ways, and the differential was like 15%. So we thought, what the heck, we'd go ahead and put it in just as make it a better book. So we just decided to add the road laws and keep that as part of the book. And the last thing the board of directors asked me to do was to go out and sell advertising to help defray the cost. So I went out and you know, did some marketing and sold advertising in the book, and we were able to offset about half our costs through the sale of ads.
They're in the back there.
They're in the back. So we were happy about that.
That's pretty good.
And, you know, in terms of county members, we're providing up to 10 books for each county. individual and business members, we're providing one book, and then obviously we're selling books to non-members and selling additional books to members if they're so inclined. We also have an arrangement with the publisher that the books will be updated on an annual basis so that we don't get ourselves into the same situation that we were in with the books being so out of date. I don't know exactly how we're going to do that yet, but we'll figure it out. And we'll do annual updates on the book and keep you all current with respect to what's going on in drainage and road laws in the state of Iowa. And I've had a lot of good comments about the books. People are very appreciative of them, so we're happy that we could do that. I'll talk legislation, what we've got going on this year. It has been a very busy year. Drainage-wise, we've had a number of bills that we've worked on, and we've had success on all of them, which is a nice thing. The first bill is Senate File 2191, which has been signed by the governor and will take effect July 1st. The request for that bill came out of Webster County. Drainage, their clerk from there contacted me and said, you know, state law provides that when you issue warrants to pay for a drainage project, the maximum dollar value of those warrants is $1,000. So if you have a big drainage project, you have hundreds of warrants.
That's new, or?
It'll be in effect July 1st.
It always has been.
Yeah, $1,000 a piece.
$1,000 has been there a
Stacks
long
of them
time.
like this.
Yeah,
That's the
I didn't realize
denomination of them.
yeah. And, you know, Webster County, I talked to the drainage clerk there a couple of weeks ago. She said, you know, we just had a $318,000 project. So it's 300, she said the stack of warrants we had was, you know, multiple inches high, which is ridiculous. So we went in and successfully got the legislation passed, which increases the maximum to $5,000. You don't have to go to the maximum, but it does raise the lid. So if, you know, obviously less bookkeeping, a lot easier administratively to keep track of who's doing this.
We just did a 2 and 51, yeah, 2 projects, but the one was significantly.
You
We
know,
had one that was 80,000 and one that was, 280,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it said it was 3.
Well,
yeah.
and,
I didn't realize that.
and then you get the, the engineering and everything, and yeah, when you can only write those in $1,000 increments.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Also.
and, you know, projects are getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not getting smaller. So hopefully that'll be helpful. We think it will be. We got that signed. Second bill is one that really doesn't impact you all, but it does have an impact on drainage. Senate File 2273. I was approached by an attorney in Woodbury County who represents a number of trustee districts with elected trustees as opposed to county supervisor districts. And the problem he was having was that the statutes that define who is eligible to be a trustee had not been changed in a long time. And as a result, the statutes didn't really reflect the different kinds of ownership of ag land that exist today that didn't exist 30, 40, 50 years ago. Shareholders, limited liability corporations, other types of ownership of farmland that didn't exist when that statute was written. He said, you know, right now the statute is so narrow that I'm having trouble finding people that fit the qualifications, although they're owners and they own land in the district. They don't technically fit the definition, so they can't be trustees. So he asked that the definition be expanded, so we did go in and do that. We did make sure and limit the definition so that it does still require ownership in the district. We didn't want a situation, for example, where a landlord could be a drainage trustee. We didn't think that was right. So you still have to be an owner, but it just redefines how that ownership is constituted under state law.
So to expand it, what considerations did you include to expand the?
We wanted to include the other types of ownership that are available under state law, but defined it as ownership not just renting the land or being
You're saying corporate ownership
Yeah.
and/or
Yeah.
partnership ownership?
Yeah.
Or-
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that has passed and been signed into law, and that also will take effect July 1st. The last bill I talk about is House Bill 2344, and I've been doing this job for 12 years now, and it's probably the biggest drainage bill we've passed in those 12 years. And the background of that bill started about 3 years ago when we had the Missouri River floods. And with those floods, the western border of the state had a lot of damage, and there were a lot of districts, particularly Monona County, Harrison County, Potawatomi County, that had not only damage, but their drainage infrastructure totally destroyed. And you're talking both drainage districts and levee districts in this particular situation. And the first thing they found was that in a lot of cases, they had districts they didn't know existed. State law, once you create a district, it's forever unless you dissolve it. They had districts out there that had been inactive for years and they didn't even know existed. And when they started doing some research, they found out they had districts. Second thing they found out was that state law was not really very conducive to doing the kinds of things that they needed to do in terms of rebuilding. State law is very good. It talks about things such as reclassification and repairs and things like that. But in terms of starting over and how to start over, it didn't really provide a lot of direction. The other thing that they wanted to do was they had a number of situations where they wanted to merge districts and take, for example, an inactive district and merge it into an active district. And drainage law really didn't have any provisions whatsoever in terms of how to merge drainage districts. So what they did is they put together a group of county supervisors and elected trustees. This would have been in 2012, and I sat in on that group. And Representative Matt Winshuttle, who's legislator from that area, sat in. And they put together sort of a wish list in terms of this is what we think needs to happen in state law to accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish. So that happened in 2012. Representative Winshuttle took those rather diverse ideas and tried to mold it into a bill. A lot of background in terms of why the process slowed down, but the long and short of it is the bill, which later became known as House File 460, House File 460, did not get introduced until Funnel Week of 2013. So nothing was going to happen in 2013. The other thing that happened was that once we finally had a bill, I took that bill and shipped it off to a drainage attorney who I respect and had him look at it and said, what do you think? Is this good, bad, indifferent? Does this help us, hurt us? What needs to change, etc. He came back with 2.5 pages of comments on either questions or changes that need to be made to make the bill palatable. So it was clear that we had a lot of work to do. So what happened as a result of that is that this year, at the start of this, starting last fall of 2013, we took House File 460, we took the comments from the drainage attorney made last year, and I took it to our new IDDA drainage attorney and said, okay, sit down, take Scott Powers' comments, go through those, let's go through the bill on a paragraph by paragraph basis and get the bill to a point where it helps Western Iowa, it also helps drainage overall. So we wrote we wrote a substantial amendment to the bill. Talked to Representative Winshuttle, who was the author of the bill. He didn't have any problems with what we were trying to do. And we moved forward on that basis. So the bill does principally three things. First of all, as I said, the merger issue, it deals with the merger issue and allows the merger of drainage districts.
I thought that was available, because I thought we had come across in some investigation.
Well,
that we had done
the
that
word
before.
merger may have existed, but the procedures and a lot of the details in terms of how that happened weren't really in the law.
We've come across some in Sac County that
Yeah.
were merged. How they did it, I don't know.
Okay. So anyway, we allow the merger and establish the procedure by which mergers can take place. The second thing we did was one of the things we found out in talking to the elected trustees over there and having the attorneys look at the bill is that you all, as county supervisors who wear two hats and also serve as drainage trustees in your districts, because of the fact that your county supervisors have liability protections afforded to you for your drainage work. Elected trustees don't have those same protections. So our approach was, it should be the same for both. So the way to do that is to expand the liability protections for elected drainage trustees, which we did, and we incorporated that into the bill. The other thing the final thing we did, the third piece, was change the references to the thresholds for competitive bidding. We raised those so that they are consistent with state law in terms of bidding procedures on drainage work. Those were raised to $100,000, which is a significant increase. I think it's 20 or 25 now. But we did put a provision in. There was some concern, and I think it was legitimate. Going to a 20 to 100 is a pretty good jump, and that conceivably could mean that you've got a farmer, who used to be notified on a $20,000 project, and all of a sudden you've got $80,000 of leeway, and you could have a big project go through without notification. So we put a provision in that says 50, if you've still got to hold an official hearing if it's 50 or above. So we did design some protections into the bill, and that was included and passed as part of the final bill. We have assembled a really good lobbying team on behalf of your association, and I am very proud to say that of those three pieces of legislation, we got them through committee on both sides, full House and full floor action on both sides, governor's signature, 3 bills, a total of 1 no vote, going all the way through the process. And we worked on her, but we couldn't get her. We wanted a perfect record, but she just wasn't going to do it. So,
What was her objection to the action?
she had an objection which really didn't have to do with the bill per se. She didn't like the fact that drainage districts have eminent domain ability. And we didn't change that. Nothing in the bill changed that. But she just doesn't like eminent domain, and she said, as long as that has eminent domain, then I'm not going to support the bill. Okay.
I wondered what.
Yeah. That's your right as a legislator. That's fine, whatever. So anyway, that was the issue that we were dealing with her. But like I said, the bill itself didn't really change that particular provision of the ability to do that. Other thing that we're watching right now on the federal level is, as you're probably aware, there has been a move by EPA to expand jurisdiction over waters that they previously didn't have jurisdiction over. Right now, what the law provides is that EPA has jurisdiction over navigable waters. The impact of this is basically to take the word navigable out of the definition and basically state that EPA has jurisdiction over waters in the United States. So it's a very substantial expansion of the authority that EPA has, and potentially could impact drainage. Could bring drainage under the Clean Water Act, which would put you all in the situation of having to go to DNR and get a permit. Anytime you wanted to do drainage work, we don't want that to happen. Now, what I can say are 2 things. First of all, there is a provision in existing regulation that exempts drainage. That's good. I can tell you that in the new regulation, there is also an exemption for drainage activity, which is good. However, and of course there is always a however, what I've been cautioned about and what we have to find out is that attorneys who follow this kind of thing very closely and who go through these regulations with a fine-tooth comb have told me that one of the concerns is that, yeah, that's well and good, the drainage exemption continues to exist, but what they are doing with the rest of the wording in the rest of the regulation has the impact of basically nullifying the exemption. You know, when you take everything else that is taking place and reading that as a whole, they said you'd have an exemption in name, but the reality is you wouldn't have an exemption. So I can tell you that I will be attending a meeting next week with representatives of Secretary Norley's office, Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship. I think the Secretary himself is going to be there. Farm Bureau, some of the commodity groups, and we're going to sit down and go through the regulation, and the goal of the meeting is to come up with a joint statement that we can make into the record in terms of the public comment period for the rules. Public comment period is open. It's open for 90 days. It's been open about 4 weeks now. So one way or the other, IDDA will make a comment on the rules, hopefully as part of this joint process next week. This is not going to happen overnight. I can virtually assure you that whatever EPA does is going to be challenged in court. It's either going to be challenged by groups like us and Farm Bureau and IDALs for going too far and stepping beyond the authority which Congress permits them, or they're going to be challenged by the environmental community for not doing enough. No matter what EPA does, they're going to pick some people off in this situation, and people are going to challenge them in court. So this is certainly not going to be the kind of thing that gets resolved overnight. The rules are out for 90 days, and then EPA pulls the rules back in, supposedly makes changes at that point in light of the comments that have been received. Whether that actually happens or not is anybody's guess. And then, promulgates the final rule, and at that point, lawsuits could be filed, and I anticipate will be filed. So it's not something that's going to occur overnight, but nonetheless, we're watching it very closely. Other thing I'll mention is that we've been having discussions, active discussions with Union Pacific Railroad over railroad issues. And I think that we're making some pretty good progress in terms of dealing with that issue. The most recent case, which was the Hardin County case, came down to a definitional issue. And right now, state law has certain protections, I guess is the best word, special treatment that is afforded to railroads and roads when they intersect drainage districts. You've got landowners here, and then you've got these two special groups that have special wording in the law that relates to how those situations are treated, and that's railroads and highways. The Hardin County case came down to a definitional issue in that the special provisions in the drainage law, 468, 111 or what it is, talks about bridge and culvert. So the question that the Supreme Court looked at was, is drain tile culvert? Does it fit into that definition? And what the Supreme Court said was no. Culverts open at both ends. We don't think that fits the definition of drain tile. Therefore, those statutes are not applicable because they talk about bridges and culverts, and drain tiles not culverts. So that's what we got out of the Supreme Court. Position that we've adopted, and IDDA has adopted at the urging of our attorney after some rather stringent legal work, was that, okay, that's fine. What that means is those sections are null and void. What that means is that you, the railroad, are not going to be treated like any other landowner. So if there's a repair on drain tile in a railroad right-of-way, you're going to be treated like any other landowner in that right-of-way. You're going to get a bill that is calculated according to your benefit. And what used to be your right-of-way, Mr. Railroad, now becomes our right-of-way. That's what drainage law says. Drainage districts have absolute right-of-way. I mean, the law is very specific and very strong in terms of the statutory protections afforded to drainage districts and drainage trustees. So you're gonna be treated like any other landowner. And the other thing we said is, going and paying this application fee of $2,000 to the railroad for the privilege of working in your right of way ain't gonna happen. Buying special, what's called railroad RPI, railroad protective insurance or railroad liability insurance, which is a special insurance you have to buy. That's costly. It's not generally covered by your county general liability policy. That goes by the wayside. And really, any notification that we would have to provide you is a courtesy, because we are now working on our right of way. When we started talking to the railroads about, you're gonna be treated like any other landowner and you're gonna get a bill based on your benefit, they looked at us like we were from outer space. They had no idea what we were talking about. And benefit, what do you mean benefit? Well, who determines that? When did that happen? How did that happen? What is the process of doing that? Did we have input into that? Can we get that changed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to walk them through drainage law, in terms of this is how we got to where we are today, and this is what benefit means, and this is how you're gonna be assessed. They've come 180 degrees. They now understand exactly what we're talking about, and they agree with what we're talking about. Now, they will say, they said, we understand concept of benefit, we understand how it got there, we understand the rights of drainage trustees, we understand our rights of landowners. Having said all that, if we get a big bill, we're gonna look at it, we're gonna take it apart, we're gonna make sure the bill is accurate, we're gonna make sure it was done properly and done according to drainage statutes, and if we're satisfied that you can demonstrate to us all those things, we'll pay the bill. That's certainly their right as a landowner. So, we are, I think, making progress. We're also talking about this issue of, the special application fee. We're trying to make that go away. We're also talking about the liability issue, and seeing, for example, if we could just provide a copy of the binder on your policy, and that would suffice instead of having to buy this special protective insurance. So, we're making progress. I think we're making good progress. We still have some issues up in the air. We're talking about those issues. Once we have some agreement that we can all sit down and initial, we'll put that out to you all. The obvious other question is, okay, well, this is Union Pacific, what about the other railroads? And I can tell you, first of all, that, you look at a map of railroads and you look at a map of drainage districts, and UP is the big dog. They're basically the biggest player, but there are other railroads up in drainage country. So UP has committed that they are part of groups where they regularly converse among themselves, that they will talk about this with some of the other railroads in the state, and try to get everybody on board, so to speak, in agreement with the process that would be worked out. So I would say right now, in terms of IDDA, our relationship is the best with the railroads that we've had. And we're going to continue to work on that and try to work through these issues so that everybody's on the same page when we have rights and interests that intersect. So I think that's a positive thing. Last thing I mentioned quickly is that we did notify county auditors back in December that we are going to do a dues increase this year. It has been 8 years since we've done a dues increase, and I felt it was time to talk to the board of directors about it. I thought we needed to do one before we needed to do one. You know, we probably could have gone one more year, but I didn't want to get to the point where we were nervous about our financial reserves. So I talked to the board, and they did agree to go ahead with the dues increase. So instead of assessing at 2 cents an acre, we're going to assess at 2.5 cents an acre. We have been able to backfill a lot of our revenue with the state grants that we received through the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship. We have had the Prep Field Specialist Program under our umbrella since 2006, and basically the amount of administrative overhead that IDDA has taken in for the administration of that program since 2006 is almost $300,000. And when you've got a small association, that's a lot of money. So we've been able to go for 8 years without a dues increase because of our grant revenues. But the problem with that is that those revenues have declined. So, you know, we've got to backfill that, that's what it amounts to. So we are going to do a dues increase July 1st. I wanted to make you aware of that.
Is that for both areas of the membership, the legislation and the regular dues?
The mutual protection fund will not change.
That's 2 cents.
Yes.
Backtracking for a second, I'm thinking through this program situation, and you have, what kind of leverage do you have with them to, yeah, you can submit the bill, but by the way, we don't want to pay it. As a normal landowner, you have some leverage. What leverage would you have with the railroad to make them pay the drainage?
Well, I think it would be the same leverage you have with a normal landowner.
Oh, I think that'd be pretty tough. I mean, you'll put the lien there, and over time you can assume the land. You think you can assume railroad land?
Our interpretation would be yes.
Good luck with that one.
Keep paying those dues.
I hope you're successful with that. I'm glad that you're trying to work this out, because
I know some
it's a big
counties, and I let me say up front, this is not the approach I suggest. This is not the approach that I am recommending. I know that at least one county had trouble getting assessments paid and had it on their property tax bill and got paid.
They talked about that.
I don't know that that's copacetic. That's a little questionable, but it worked. Property taxes generally get paid without question. They see a property tax bill, an initial check is cut, you know? So, I don't know that I would recommend that, but it's being employed by at least one county.
It's been our perspective that they need to pay their share just like everybody else does. They should not be exempt, and I'm glad you're addressing that.
And, you know, I guess the other leverage that we would have, and I wouldn't say it was leverage, but we now have a good conversational relationship with UP. So if it's a UP issue, I have people, and our attorney has people in their Omaha office, national office, which we can talk to and say, here's the deal, can you help? So we can talk to top people in their national headquarters office that can intercede on our behalf if they think it's proper to do so. And that's I think
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Good for you.
A lot of times, as you know, it's you know, I've had so many situations that have come to my desk in the past, and you know, for example, you know, they have they know Joe Smith. You know, the county drainage clerk knows Joe Smith, who works with UP, and they've always worked with Joe Smith, and they've always had a good relationship, and they talk to each other, and everything's hunky-dory, and all of a sudden, Joe Smith retires, or Joe Smith gets promoted, and it doesn't exist anymore, and the relationship that existed, it goes south, and it doesn't exist anymore, and the new person that took Joe's job over has no idea who the drainage clerk is, and there's no communication, and nothing happens. You know, the railroad also said, you know, we we, Union Pacific, freely admit at this point that we have made some huge mistakes in terms of dealing with drainage issues. He said a lot of times we have gone in and we've had situations where they went in and they didn't know it was a drainage district and didn't know the county supervisors were involved, and they put ballast, filled rock into a drain tile, to a culvert, and blocked it up. Had no idea, just did it. Had another occasion where they put a railroad support right in the middle of the drainage ditch. Just did it. They said, we understand now that we have a responsibility to contact you, and that you all have a responsibility to contact us, so we're trying to facilitate how that communication takes place.
Well, the consequences
Yep.
are huge. For every hour that line's, if they are aware of the benefit
Yeah,
from holding up the road bed,
yeah,
it's peanuts compared, they can pay a few drainage bills. It's so minuscule compared to 1 hour, 2 hours loss of time.
yeah, that's right.
That's,
Thank you, John.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good, your advice. Yes, we're up in the orders.
yeah, there's plenty of room to add.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna snag one more from you
There you go.
for our secondary roads.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Tom?
Good morning.
Good morning. How much railroad property is close to our drainage? Do we have much?
We've only got one active
Just the one active one.
Canadian railroad that goes from, Herring through Ulmer and exits over by Yetting. That's the only active railroad.
Sorry for running late, Tom.
Oh, that's no problem. You guys have waited on me before. So that's not a problem. I've just got, I won't take a lot of time, but I have one thing in particular, and I found a couple of others while I was coming, so. The main thing I was coming for is, as you know, we've been through the medical renewal, and, there's one for getting in there too. And, we got the renewal from Assurant, and this is on the county pays for $10,000 of group life and also for long-term disability. And then there's also a voluntary life program so the employees can buy more insurance. And so we got the renewal from Assurant this year, and it just wasn't very comfortable with what I thought the renewal action was. We did a little bit of checking and just didn't see that it was necessarily claims driven. And so it felt like this was probably a good year to just go out and see what else was in the marketplace. Which is a good thing, because one other thing that we discovered is that typically with a long-term disability policy, the salaries get updated annually because the premium is based upon salaries, and it looked like it hadn't been updated for several years. So we were going to look at an increase in our total premium if we wanted to get salaries covered where they're at. And so, having said all that, we went out and did a very extensive market review, and frankly, came back with some really good news. So, if I can just maybe walk through this, I think the easiest thing to walk through this might be, I've done this on a couple things, it might be to go to the very last page. And there's one number I'm going to have you pencil in here as well. So what you'll see is you'll see 3 columns: Assurant, Lincoln Financial, and Standard. And you'll see under Assurant the premium for the life, the premium for disability, for a total of about $30,000. That was pre-renewal. So if we didn't do anything with Assurant, but just went through the renewal and then also increased the salary amount that we were billed on, you can pencil this number in, and we were gonna go to 46,530.
That's the renewal premium
That's what it would have been.
total.
Yes, that would have been the life and the disability combined. So as I said, we probably got proposals from several different carriers, and then you kind of go through the contracts, and the key thing was finding carriers that would match our existing contract. Because one of the things, especially with the disability, that you have to look at is making sure that you have the same definitions of disability for your law enforcement and your emergency personnel, which we have. And so Lincoln and Standard were both willing to match the policies. And so you can see from the other two columns, you can see that Standard is a little bit cheaper on the life than Lincoln, and Lincoln's a little bit cheaper on the long-term disability than Standard is. But you'll see in either situation a significant reduction in cost. And this includes stepping up the salaries.
With that included?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were happy we did the analysis, because, and I frankly, both Lincoln and Standard are good carriers. Standard probably does a little bit more work in the government market than Lincoln, although they both do quite a bit. The third thing that's not on here that you should know is we also looked at the voluntary life rates, because the way the voluntary life works, it's as an age-rated product, and their rates are the same as where we're at now. So we're not losing anything there, we're not gaining anything, but for employees who already have the voluntary life, moving to another carrier isn't, basically all they're gonna do is have a new booklet. It isn't going to affect their rates. There is one slight difference on the voluntary life. Under the current Assurant plan, if we have an individual has, normally they can buy, when they're first eligible for coverage, they can buy up to $100,000 on a guaranteed issue basis. So they get one shot at that. And then each year during our open enrollment, which is really the time we're doing our employee meetings, if you already have a policy, you can increase your benefit by $10,000 on a guaranteed issue basis. So you can automatically up it by $10,000 every year. If you want to buy more than $10,000, then that additional you have to go through a simplified underwriting. Standard will do the same thing. Lincoln will allow an increase of $20,000 on a guaranteed issue basis every year. So there's a.
What about the initial purchase? I'm uninsurable, so I took the maximum.
Yeah, that guaranteed issue amount stays the same.
That's still there?
That's still there, yes. So that stays the same with either one of these carriers. So for anybody that is a new employee that wants to take that guaranteed issue amount, that still goes up to the $100,000. So you can see either it's a significant savings compared to what we're paying now. It's a really significant savings compared to what it would have gone to had we looked at the increase and also brought those salaries up to the level that they should be at relative to the long-term disability.
So is there absolutely any reason that we shouldn't take the lowest bid?
Probably not. You get a few more, frankly, you get a few more advantages from the coverage is the same. So if you look at what Sac County is paying for, which is what these numbers represent, there isn't, because we've made sure that the contracts match up. so that you have, so we don't get a savings because we're dropping benefits.
Right.
So we've made sure that that hasn't happened. And, you know, you could certainly lean towards Lincoln from the standpoint of saying, well, there's a benefit to our employees as well. They can buy more coverage on a guaranteed issue basis if they want to. You know, that's completely their choice, but it's a nice benefit to have available, so you
It's
can
really
buy.
only $800 difference roughly.
Right.
You know, you know, 20,000 as opposed to 10, is pretty good value.
If you look at that over 3 years, that's an extra 30,000 on a guaranteed issue basis, 30 versus 60.
So what is it, maybe, I may have missed what you said, but what's the premium cost for that additional 10,000 life insurance?
I don't have the rates with me, Jim. It's age rated,
Oh,
so it
okay.
depends on what, excuse me, it depends on what age bracket that you fall in. And it would be the same under either of these that it is under Assurant today.
Oh,
But
okay.
I didn't bring that chart with me.
Okay, that's all.
Oh, thanks for doing this. I mean, this is a big deal.
Well, I have to tell you, we were
30,000.
surprised. I thought that there was a chance to improve for the renewal. This came back frankly much better than I anticipated. So we've got a couple of carriers here. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention, and the other 2 pages give you more of a breakdown, but the other thing I should mention, I won't necessarily beat you up with all the details, it was just so you could see, but it also carries with it a 3-year rate guarantee.
Both do?
Yeah,
Yes.
so that 36-month guarantee.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is, so the only thing we would see that would really affect the total annual cost is salary adjustments on the long-term disability. The life will basically stay the same, other than it would shift if the enrollment, the number of people covered would shift. So we're able to get the savings and lock it in for 3 years, starting July 1st, which is no small matter.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
We need to make a motion to direct him, also move that he switch from life insurance policy from Assurant to Lincoln Financial for
Which one gave us the
20%.
the Lincoln one did?
Lincoln is the one that they have
So the
10,000
10 is
more
20,000.
guaranteed issue.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll second his motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve to Lincoln Financial. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries. Thank you,
Okay,
Tom.
then we'll follow up with the paperwork and I know you want more paperwork.
You know, look at that over a 3-year period.
Short for one
That's-
more year.
That's a big money.
That'll help our health insurance.
Well, it helps the budget.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, helps the budget. Put it together. I just wanted, just hot off the press, just an update on how the self-funded portion of the plans are going, and we kind of set it up this way, I guess, today, so I'm gonna direct you to the last page first. The reason I'm going to the last page is it gives you just the overall numbers of how we're doing, all the plans combined. And so the top chart is where we're at through 3/4 of the year, July through March. And so all the plans combined, for the self-funded portion, we budgeted just over 144,000. We've spent just under 90, so we're about 54.3 under budget. If we annualize those numbers, that's what the bottom half of the page is. And so we're staying consistent in terms of how that's working, and so that's a positive. So we're on track to come in about 76,000 under budget with the safety fund. And so then all of the other pages are each plan. And so, as you know, Plan 1 has got everybody who's got single coverage, and with just a couple of exceptions, Plan 4 has got everybody with family coverage. And then the Plan 3, which is the one that used to be on family coverage, I think we've got one person, and they really maxed out, so we're not really
Supervisors,
seeing
this is
anything.
Brown.
Or that was Brown.
Shifting gears, Tom.
Yeah.
We had some attention drawn to some new
I would
stuff
say that should be Tina.
today and some training. Do you
We're in
have
a
any
board meeting right now.
insight on stuff that we ought to be looking at, or give us some information about?
Sure.
What's
things
your
that we may
office
not
phone
know?
number?
Yeah,
731.
it's funny you should ask that, because
7318.
one of the things that we've been working on for the last 4 months, with healthcare reform, and there are a number of other issues, compliance has become a really big deal. Much bigger than it has ever been in my career. There have been stuff out there, we're seeing the federal government be a lot more active. So the answer to your question is yes. There's several areas. There's healthcare reform, we've spent some time on that, understanding the notices. There's the HIPAA privacy, making sure you have good practices, the Family Medical Leave Act that we could go, I could go on. So what we've put together that I was gonna bring to your attention today is we've put together a couple of things. The first thing we put together is a compliance assessment. And so basically, it's all of those issues, plus we do it's a 25-question, just HR practices assessment, which would be things like personnel files, I-9s, all of those processes. And so our cost for doing the assessment is $750. And then what you'll get from us is you'll get a compliance report. And what we do is we think of a traffic light, we break it down into red, yellow, green. We prioritize the issues. So the red are issues that we see that you're not in compliance, that we think you should address right away. The yellow are things that maybe we're not fully in compliance, but they may not rise to the level of priority of some of the others. And then the green are the areas where we know we're in compliance. And so based upon that report, then we can discuss whether you think that those are things you can take care of yourself, or if you want our help with in terms of dealing with any of those compliance
Is it
issues
just a
as well.
questionnaire then? Is that what you're
The
saying?
first assessment is, what it is it's an assessment. We actually would do it over the phone. It's comprehensive. It's probably a 90-minute to 2-hour phone call to just go over all the
And
questions.
who will you direct that to?
Well, it's a question of whether it's up to you who you want to.
Well, I mean, we have several departments that are pretty
We would try
interactive
to
with that.
figure out who all ought to be involved in that. And we typically set it up as a go-to meeting.
Okay.
And so we can break that down in advance and figure out who would need to be involved in that call.
Because we have just the auditor's office, the mental health group,
Right.
and public health group are kind of the three.
Well, the ambulance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The sheriff.
So there's
Sheriff.
5 right there.
Okay.
And actually, the
And
mental
probably
health would
secondary.
probably not be part of it now, because they need to establish their own in this new.
Well, yes and no, because we keep case
Counties.
management local.
Right.
That's
But they
that's
have to
still
have their own, as I understand it, their own.
Well, they may need to have I guess what I would say is probably they're gonna need to have their own procedures, and they may have a little bit different type of information, but I think
They'd be part of
the
our
general assessment
overall.
would make sense, because it would help them determine.
Okay.
So for example, if you took your mental health, they're probably gonna need to think about some things differently. So for example, take the HIPAA privacy. They're probably gonna be dealing with more protected health information than maybe other departments, than maybe are gonna be in the auditor's office. But the assessment is the same, and it's identified to figure out, okay, how do we need to address this where?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that covers the FMLA, HIPAA, and didn't you say there was 3?
Healthcare reform, there's actually 4 or 5, those are just 3 of them that I named off.
Some of the things that are coming up are like what's necessary for protection of documents.
Correct,
The front door's locked, the offices are locked, the file cabinets need to be locked.
correct. And what needs to be in there.
Yeah.
And what do you keep and what don't you keep? So that's why that assessment takes so long. So the idea of the assessment, really, for the $750, the idea is to tell you where you're at, where am I good, where do I have hot spots that I need, and so it goes beyond, it's beyond what you asked me about. HIPAA privacy is part of it. And then, once we know where we're at, you can't fix everything at once. And there's some things you look at and you know, some of the yellow stuff, you go, well, we may get to that, but it doesn't present the risk to Sac County that the reds do. And so we need to make sure we get those in order, and then if we know we've got the greens in order, then you can start to work through those areas, and it gives you a snapshot of where you're at.
So that 750 would cover as many people as we would want to be on that initial hour and a half, 2 hour
Yeah,
call.
we can do a go-to webinar so we could have up to 1,000 on the call. So yes, because really, at that point, what the 750 is doing, and we would want to have as many as we needed to be able to answer the questions, because those answers to the questions are what are going to allow us to put together the compliance report for you. And so we need to be able to have those questions answered to give you as thorough of a report to figure out where you want to go.
And I'm
from there.
assuming that whoever handles this compliance assessment is up to date on all of the latest and greatest and
Mhm.
funnest stuff.
Sounds like a good,
Mhm.
perfect for what we were talking about earlier this morning.
And it isn't me. I know part of it, but probably just enough to be, yeah, we've got a couple of people in our office that are up to speed. on that.
Is that on the web, can I go look at anything on the website for what's covered or is that?
I
or do
brought,
like
I
contact,
actually
guess?
brought a summary for you, because I was gonna bring it up today. So Rick read my mind.
Well, we had it brought in this morning from the Public Health Department. ISAC had written several pages about new stuff coming, and so worked out perfectly. Well, we can ask Tom today.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be here today.
Yeah, so this outlines, oops, sorry. Guys are on my left side, you're always last.
It's okay.
So that gives you an overview of all the things that we'll assess and be asking questions about.
Does this, once you've developed this, one of the things that come to mind are like policy and procedure for a breach. You know, and we certainly don't have that.
And how to handle that.
Right.
So, yeah, so really, once we get a picture of where we're at, then the next step is to, okay, let's sit down and review the report and figure out where we've got these hot spots, what would be the things that would be necessary to fix those? And so then it would be a matter of trying to figure out where, if anywhere, do you need our help? And what are some of the things that you feel like you've got what you need to get those taken care of? So your question is a good question, because you get into this is the example I use. It may not be the best example, but so when you get into some of these things, and so a next step. So one of the issues you see a lot of claims today are sexual harassment. And when you see the sexual harassment claims that end up in bad results for the employers, it's almost always because they didn't have procedures in place on how to handle a complaint. It wasn't that they were promoting a bad work environment. It's that they didn't have procedures in place when a complaint was made. And since they didn't want to do anything wrong, they did nothing. And those are the ones, so that would be the next phase, is to figure out, okay, because everybody's a little different as we've done these assessments. We found the areas that they have issues are all a little bit different. And then we found that even within those areas, there are some things that are easy fixes that you probably really don't need us for. And then there are other things where you say, well, okay, the policies and procedures, do you have something? Because some of those things are pretty consistent, it doesn't really matter who we're talking to.
Where are you at in the process of this as far as working with other entities?
We've got, 8 of those that we're working on right now.
Because a lot of the hard part's getting the boilerplate piece.
Right.
That-
Right, yeah, we've got 8 of those that we're in different stages, so we've already got the tools to be able to put the boilerplate together.
Okay.
So we're in good shape there.
Sounds good.
It's fine.
Do we have a motion to approve this assessment?
I'll make the motion to agree to the arrangement with group services to provide the assessment for our HIPAA updating.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all ayes, motion carries.
So do you want us to coordinate who all we need through you, or?
You and Jen.
Well, I
We'll
should.
make a list of who
Yeah.
we want to put
I
on
actually think
there.
maybe scan this and send it to the department heads and see if, I think Kim should be in on anything
Yeah,
that touches
that's a good idea.
payroll or
That's a good idea.
anything.
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree. And then what we do is we can set up a go-to meeting, so, basically, you've got a computer and a phone,
Yeah.
you can participate at your desk.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about getting everybody together. So.
Sounds good.
Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Tom.
good. And the last thing is an FYI, I just want to let you know, we've got the employee meetings coming up the 12th of May. I have a scheduling conflict, I have to be in Kansas City that week. So Kim Barron's from our office is going to be out to do the meetings. So I just want you to know, I apologize that the conflict came up, but Kim does a lot of these, and
She's been here before, I think, with you.
yeah, I think she has, and I'll coordinate with you, Jim, making sure exactly what you want us to cover.
Okay.
And then we'll have coordinated, I'm sure Kelly Lester from Walmart's gonna be here, so it'll be smooth, we'll have it all coordinated, I just didn't want you guys to, think I was abandoning you. Just granted, I didn't have any choice.
Taking the money and running.
Not as fast as I used to be.
Joanna, did you have some other things you wanted to talk to Tom about?
I think we're gonna talk later.
Yeah, I think,
Oh, you're gonna,
yeah,
When he's done.
I think I'm done.
okay.
Is there anything else you need from me?
I was just gonna suggest if you wanted to step in the boardroom and visit.
Right.
Yeah, I thought I would figure out all of her questions of us, and we can start to pick them off one at a time.
Did you
Okay.
remember the question for?
What time's lunch with you?
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Can't
Good, thanks to see you.
Yep, thanks,
Good
Tom.
to see you, thanks. Good to see you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if the county attorney was gonna be here for this discussion on this resolution or not.
Check.
Sure.
There's coffee up here, guys, if you need it.
No, thanks.
Got some fresh candy, too.
Yeah.
Somebody was getting me.
Yeah,
Somebody.
grandkids had way too much candy. And they voluntarily put some in the sack to get rid of it.
They did?
Yeah, the older three just had gobs of candy. So, I just said, I know a place I can take that to.
I don't know, if we need to have more copies of this,
Yeah. Right, because I haven't seen.
that's, was on my desk, and I think Ben developed that resolution.
Yep, he's gonna come in.
Hi, Ron. Yeah, there's things in there about parks, state, state campgrounds, public
Could
country.
be with one meeting around the lake, if there was a resolution from the county and the city. So we just got a couple of short sections there that could be a little risky. Yes, state highways.
Done, Ben?
I don't have any history on this, so I don't know how to even introduce it.
I guess this is a draft of a proposed resolution, or at least a topic of discussion, consideration of a possible resolution. The title is what it purports to be, permitting the operation of off-road vehicles in Sac County under a number of different parameters and circumstances. Truthfully, this is nothing more than a cut and paste version of a neighboring county's ordinance that deals with the same. I don't know if it's a model ordinance that was adopted by a number of different counties. It looked to be like it might. So it was brought to my attention that this is something that residents of the county might, something that the residents of the county have asked the board to consider. It's an issue that's come up a number of different times in my office with regards to the legality, the the nuisance factor, things of that nature. So I thought it was worth the board's time to maybe consider. By no means am I advocating that the board pass it. It's just something that I thought was worthy of the board's attention. So I can give an opinion if the board would like, or if they wanted time to discuss it. But that's not the purpose of submitting this. Is not me asking you or telling you that it needs to be done. Just saying that you can do it. And if you wanted to do it, this would be a way that you could do it.
I guess I would ask you, do you see any problems? I mean, are you concerned about?
I'm not concerned with it. I'm not, if there's going to be circumstances and issues that come up, if in fact something like this was passed that the ordinance could not account for, that's the way with every law in every instance. So I think it's a good starting spot, especially right now, just for discussion's sake. I'm sure the sheriff probably would be able to provide some input as well, as he's the one that would be, the front line of this. So
Yeah, I talked to Kenny about it a couple weeks ago, and he brought up an ordinance from Crawford County, and it's very similar to this. And there's people in the county that live in the nine towns and are on acreages that don't come under the jurisdiction of animal husbandry and farm use of ATVs on county roads. I guess this is an attempt to accommodate those people and give them kind of equal rights that people like you and I as farmers have been able to execute. And Ted Helmick's here from the city of Lakeview, and I understand the city of Oldeyville has adopted something to permit this.
There's more of a golf cart type thing, I think, so,
Well, theirs is also now UTVs
okay.
and ATVs, but they have to be registered with the city. Before they can get a registration, they have to show proof of insurance, and then they have to have a sticker placed on it, so. And that just, like, is only less than a year old.
But didn't that include golf carts?
Yeah, old golf carts were included, and then they threw in the UTVs and ATVs, so. You know, we see them all over the damn place,
Mm-hmm.
you know, really, and it only makes sense that, I mean, that we allow that, I mean, it's happening. And, you know, you're right, it's very difficult for us to distinguish what's being used for animal husbandry and what isn't. You know, I mean, all you gotta say is, yep, I'm gonna go check this farm place, or I'm gonna, you know, okay, you know. I'm not opposed to it.
I think, Rick, to maybe more properly address the question that you had, the legality of it, yes, we can. There's a specific code section, I believe, it's cited in there that gives the counties the ability to legislate, I guess. And there's nothing that specifically prohibits it. If there were, there would be a number of counties that would be acting in violation outside the scope of their.
It's just, I gleaned this, maybe I missed it. You had just mentioned the fact of providing proof of insurance. There's a plate fee here. Is that plate fee go to the recorder's office then, or has that been worked out?
I think the recorders are.
Yeah, I have a farm one for mine.
Yeah, it says section 5, an identification sticker from the office of the county recorder.
Are those registered like snowmobiles then? Is that how that works?
Everything has to be registered today. If you buy something current, say if you, Dean, you had an older ATV that you brought into me that wasn't registered, before I sold it to Kenny, it would have to become registered.
Yeah.
I have to have like Ted or Kenny come in and verify that the unit's not stolen, sign an affidavit, and we turn that over to the courthouse, and it is registered from here on out. So, the law says it has to be registered in the state of Iowa now.
Well, what is that fee?
It varies whether it's farm use or, for me, it's like $17.50 per year, or for Dean or farm use, it's like $1.50 for life. So
it's really inexpensive.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And this ordinance doesn't change that.
It would be an additional fee that
Did
to
I
allow you
miss
to
the
drive
insurance
on the road.
line? Is there insurance here?
I'm looking for that.
I
I
didn't
saw
see it.
Yeah.
the fee, the application fee to the recorders, and that
Yeah.
is paragraph 3 of that section 5.
The enforcement side,
Other than that,
Yeah,
snowmobile, you have a
section,
registration,
subsection 6
and you have a
of
trail pass.
section 4.
Now,
Number paragraph 6,
yeah,
I guess.
There's two separate fees. The trail pass fee, mine goes towards the,
Where's it
more
at?
expenses and the trail.
It's
so
about,
You can get it and adopt that same thing.
Section 4, paragraph 6.
it's like the third sentence following the second semicolon.
Unless the operator has proof of insurance complying with that requirement.
Okay. Well, it looks good to me. I think you got your bases covered.
from county law enforcement or city law enforcement, if you see somebody operating in an unsafe manner or violation of some of these tenants, then at that point, you'll check and see if they're, if they're 18 or older, and if they have a license. I mean, I don't envision requiring law enforcement to really crack down. If everything seems like it's the age requirement, like all laws.
Well, one thing that, I have a copy of the Crawford County one, and 18 or older will help prevent a lot of issues, I think, with younger kids just kind of ripping around town. And, if you see two guys on an ATV not designed for it, I mean, the smart thing to do is to write them a ticket, because it used to be a law even if you were on your own farm ground and you were on an ATV, you could be responsible for a ticket. I know everybody does it, but the units say on it, one person only, or we do have 2-person ATVs and 4-person commanders and what have you, but not too long ago, you could be have a citation for being on your own farm ground for riding 2 people. It's against the law to do it.
I think you still can, it's just that.
I think they changed it though, Ben. I think,
Maybe.
you know,
Yeah.
people gotta use common sense. That's the main thing.
Practically, I mean, the only time it's gonna come up is after somebody gets in a.
Somebody gets hurt.
In a serious accident, you know.
So if they get fined, caught, they're
Yeah,
written
the,
up, does the city get, where does the revenue from
well,
is there a
depends on
city ordinance?
whose ordinance,
That's
city
prosecuted?
ordinance, it would be the city attorney that'd be prosecuting or enforcing, with city law enforcement, so I suppose in this case, using Odebo as the example, somebody traveling from one of these lawful, a place that you could lawfully, in a manner lawfully operating one of these ATVs from the county to Odebo, they would need both county and Odebo, right? They would have to have permission or a license to do in both. This would not cover.
This would be only unincorporated.
Unincorporated as well as the county, so, they go from the county, they get the city limits, then it's the city of, in this case, city of Odebo would be responsible for prosecuting and enforcing, and in this case, the sheriff's office enforces the law in Odebo, so.
How do they handle that if you got say the city of Lakeview adopts a resolution to allow it, they're gonna have a separate sticker for
I
Lakeview, a
guess,
separate
yeah.
county, or,
I'm guessing that each city would have its own
We have
sticker.
that now with the golf carts, and all we would do is add this to our golf cart policy. It really isn't gonna change anything as far as the citation part, because we do that now. For instance, if the sheriff would stop somebody in Lakeview, he would write it on a state code. You have the option at whoever stopped the vehicle option, whether you're gonna write it on a city code or a state code. So that, really the only thing this is actually gonna change is what you had discussed before. It's allowing the other residents of the county to have the same option as the farmers to be able to get to and from.
Yeah, and using myself as an example, I live on the outskirts of Lakeview. It'd be nice to pop out of my driveway and hit the gravel roads. I mean, not that I would or could, but I mean that we're not Polk County, we're not Des Moines, you're not gonna see.
I don't know how many entities in the county sell, Jim has Black Hawk Marine in Lakeview and sells 4-wheelers and Commanders, and Schenkelberg in Sac sells Gators. I bought, and Haley Implement in Wall Lake. I don't know. I don't know how many, I'm gonna stop to think about how many businesses in the incorporated or the unincorporated area of the county sell things that this applies to.
This would, I guess, I don't have a beat on how many, I mean, the sheriff would know how often this goes on without any sort of resolution. This is probably, if I had to guess, this would be more to legitimize or sanction conduct that's already going on rather than opening up an entirely new market where my point is that you're not gonna see 1,000 ATVs on the road, because of this. It's just acknowledging that we're not like other places.
Really, we're providing more framework for the use, the age limit, and the insurance, it's, true, I mean, as soon as we bring this up and somebody would have to be hurt, they'll go, well, the supervisors, the county attorney, they brought this, back.
Yeah.
To me, I can live with that because I think we're given more framework, and I think that might be good.
Well, I mean, it's gonna come up, somebody get hurt, and then I'll look for somebody else to blame, but that's always the case with everything, so.
something that we did check on was with the state. The only reason, I've been told, the only reason the state doesn't go ahead and adopt a resolution for driving throughout the state of Iowa is liability to them because, well, they want the manufacturer to take off the MSO, that's the piece of paper you get when you purchase, it's the manufacturer statement of origin. It says for off-road use only. The state of Iowa, what I understand, says if you can get the manufacturer to take that off, we'd give you a license plate to drive the thing. But the manufacturer doesn't want to take that off there because they don't want to be liable for you being on the road. Even though it doesn't say it's for road use. Because I've actually talked to the top guy at VRP, which is our manufacturer, and he says, you'll probably never see that come off, they don't want to be responsible. State
So that will
highways.
be legal on state highways.
Right.
I think you can cross them.
Cross them,
Just,
what I read
yeah.
here is you can cross the state highway, but you can't travel down. And some of the things that, you know, Ted and I've
Or
talked
in
about.
the ditch, probably. We don't want them in.
No,
the
you gotta
ditch.
be on the road,
Yeah.
yeah. Ted and I've talked about is, you know, like around Lakeview, I don't think the city would have an issue with us driving through town. The problem that we deal with is the lake. We got county road and we got some state road going around the lake.
It's
And
actually in city limits, but it's considered North State Road, South
It's-
State Road.
yeah.
So
so
technically, it's a state road.
if the county adopted it and the city, we could probably get the state to kind of overlook
Do they still
the
plow
lake.
that?
I mean, I don't know. What's that?
DOT
I'm
plows
not
that?
so sure if they plowed or if it's.
I think Ron
View
did
is
it once in a while.
contracted to, I'm not really sure.
Do you wanna weigh in on that?
The only thing county plows is around the way, around the east end.
Yeah,
I guess as far as, you're talking about the part that goes around the south side, then on over to the,
I think our city guys plow all that.
I think they do.
I think there's this arrangement with the state.
Yeah, for us to maintain
They get
the
paid
snow
something
removal.
with-
Yeah, there's,
So is that
Paid to
classified as a
salt.
state highway then? I mean, that's where you're gonna run into your damn problem.
well, we don't know if it's really, I don't know if it's really state highway, but I know like, the people at Dixieland Trailer Court, and they got a boat lift in the marina. When Eric Hawkinson was on, if he drove your golf cart out of that, trailer court across the road to that marina, I've seen that guy actually go over and load your golf cart up while you're out the boat and take it. I mean, that's how strict he was on it. I mean, and all those people were trying to do was get their family and their killer down to the, you know, across the road. And Eric actually, I seen him one time load up a golf cart and take that guy's cart while he's gone.
If something like this was passed in the county and then the city did it, there's always the possibility that somebody's gonna write a citation, and it doesn't mean that it won't go any further than that.
Well, that's your choice.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you guys to do this, and then, you know, just because it happens to, you know, the person happened to be on, you know, 1,000 feet of pavement. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
The one you
could
got
write
from
it, but
Crawford
you
County,
can't-
is that
you
an
have the
ordinance
choice
or a
to prosecute
resolution?
it
Well,
or
it's
not.
just a resolution in here. You can have this copy, I don't know. It's,
I guess I'd like to comment too. I know there was, I didn't see the agenda, I didn't realize it was gone this morning, I just happened to walk in here. But I know in Calhoun County, somebody presented some information to the board, and the county attorney had got a packet of stuff, I don't know where it came from, but it was from the University of Iowa and the manufacturers that talk about the dangers of these off-road tires running on roads. And, I mean, he's right, that, I don't think you'll ever see him take that off of there because of liability issues, and according to manufacturers, they're not recommended to run them on the road. I'd like to get that information and give it to the board, I guess, before you consider this anymore. I know there was supposedly a bill in the House that was being supported to make it, allow it, and that counties could turn around and disallow it. And I don't know where that went, where it died or what happened there. I do know there's a few counties around that.
But what I can add to that is, we're not seeing ATV accidents on the highways. I couldn't tell you the last time we covered an accident because somebody was riding an ATV or a UTV down the roadway. And if they're happening, they're not being reported. You
Well,
know,
what
I mean,
happens when they pop out of the ditch.
yeah.
You know.
And to add to your comment on that, for off-road use only, I think it's probably because of the tires. You know, they're running 8 to 20 pounds of air in tires, you know, they're not really street tires.
They're not made on the street.
Yeah, but on the other hand, some of the terrain that those tires hold up to. I don't know if there's an issue on the road or not, but
Part of that, when you mention the fact that it's, when they pop out of the ditch, well, some of them are in the ditch thinking that they're probably okay in the ditch if they stay off the road. And if they're okay on the road, you wouldn't have those people popping out.
there's a lot more hazard. I mean, other than vehicles, there's a lot more hazard in that ditch than there is on that road. Washouts, rocks, culverts. I mean, I sell snowmobiles, I know what ditch damage is. They don't get crashed on the trail, they get crashed in the ditch, you know.
The only,
This may hurt your
the only
business.
complaints we ever
Yeah, that's true.
the only complaints we ever get are from in town. You know, and it's usually kids horsing around, you know, but,
And seeing that's something that can be written up under, you know, reckless or careless.
Yeah.
Or, you know, this doesn't give them permission to act like idiots, you know, I mean, that still can be enforced.
But the big problem there is catching it. I mean, I talked.
yeah.
Yeah.
Talked to
Right place, right time. That's what
Woodbury
I'm
County
talking about.
engineer, and they're tearing up the
Yeah.
road right away someplace, but as soon as the sheriff or somebody shows up, you know, they're off over the hill and, you know, you can't catch them.
Get a helicopter.
I have to requisition some
Drones.
some ATVs.
Oh, there you go.
Don't be giving him ideas.
There you go.
That's not too far away, so.
Hey, Ben, I just showed Ted a copy of a police ATV.
Yeah.
Lights, the whole 9 yards. I He says he's gonna get one.
Yeah, maybe they should, maybe the SAC
It's
county
not
needs
like
one.
Carol's. Carol went to
Ron, I think, you know, to answer your claim, like, if you're worried about this on your roads, then I think we should outlaw farmers.
I'm just,
I think if you're not, you know, we ought to take it away from, you know, follow your logic, then if it's good enough for farmers, why isn't it good enough for everybody else?
Can I speak now?
Yeah.
I just said I wanted to bring you the information that has been provided from the University of Iowa and the manufacturers, so you also consider when you're looking at this. I realize it's not gonna stop the ATVs that we see spinning donuts in the road. You're still gonna see those whether you pass this or not. I mean, those people probably aren't 18 to start with, although I did see one guy one day spinning donuts right in front of Haverstrode, and he followed him into town after he rolled it over and told him he shouldn't be doing that out on the road, but he was over 18.
He's probably the same guy that won't register his vehicle anyway. So.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
But I think there's, with having the age of 18, really cuts down on the likelihood of most of those. I mean, we were all 14 and 15, you know.
Their bikes on the gravel road.
And I haven't seen the draft, so I guess I don't know what's in there for ages and et cetera.
It's 18. You have to be.
And I don't know what other county they do, and I think Webster County passed an ordinance, and I think they're actually issuing licenses that are visible.
I was gonna ask City of Odebo, how visible is that sticker?
It's just a little.
I don't know.
Can you see it from your car?
Yeah, they have to have them affixed in the back of the unit.
But don't they have to have a flag as well?
Well, I'd have to read it. On some they do.
Sac
I think on
City
the golf
golf
carts
carts,
they do.
Sac City
But I'm not
requires
too for
a
sure
flag.
they do on the ATVs or UTVs.
Yeah, I don't think that is for something that doesn't do over 30 or 35 or something.
You know, and you know, the snowmobiles have a decal that, you know, the sheriff or the DNR or the local cops can, you know, stop and check. I mean, and we have to have them affixed to the windshield. They have to be in a certain location. And they have taken the flag away from snowmobiles. I mean, you used to have to have
Yeah.
a flag.
Yeah.
That's been gone for
Oh,
years.
sorry, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So is it, with the recorder, do they, are there stickers, they just have to kind of make one then, or, I mean?
Well, it's something they are provided through the state.
Yeah.
The ones we get now.
Yeah.
For,
But this is, I don't know, that's a good question.
they'll figure it out.
Well, aren't you actually suggesting a plate, not just a sticker, or
I thought it was a sticker.
was it?
Well, it talks about both things in there.
That's
why
what I
was
saw
wondering
the
about
plate
this-
discussion. So
This registration thing, I don't know how it works.
But not all vehicles have a plate holder.
each applicant for an identification plate must pay a fee in the amount of $25.
And
Most of the
identification.
newer stuff has a license plate bracket, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
states that already allow it. Every state
Identification.
does, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota,
Section
I think
5.
Nebraska does also, now South Dakota. I mean, those are states that, so most of the vehicles that come out have a license plate bracket for like a motorcycle size plate.
That's why this is a draft. I don't know how
So-
necessary a plate is.
Is the fee an annual $25 fee then, is that?
I was just thinking that too. I'm guessing it would be just like anything else.
Okay. Cause it doesn't really say.
I think the Crawford County one, does it specify that, but I think it's an
We
annual,
could,
makes sense.
You know, one way to proceed with this, we could put it on the agenda next week. In the meantime, talk to our recorder, you know, and see what she thinks about it. Her office is gonna be.
They're doing the sticker, so I guess one of the questions I would have, did she have access to a plate?
Well, those are not
for that purpose.
But if, you have to register snowmobiles or off-road vehicles now through the state, and they give them a specific
It's
identity
a sticker, yeah.
Why couldn't you just use that?
But it'd be a state sticker, not a county sticker.
Yeah, but you could reference in your permit, state sticker number, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know how that works, so that would be.
I mean, that's certainly not, then you don't have to go through the rigmarole of
Getting a plate.
creating a whole new,
Do you, want to go down and see if Nancy's available?
and I'm guessing that if you have
I mean,
to,
she might be able to answer a lot of these questions right now.
We can just bring her, or I guess you're right down.
if you have to have a plate, you're gonna have to go through
I wasn't gonna
motor
say that,
vehicle to
Peter.
do that. Because the only thing the recorder issues is stickers.
So really ought to go to a sticker.
The,
Plates.
on a snowmobile, they have a Iowa registration sticker, you know.
Right,
And
and it's
it's-
specific to that vehicle.
Right, it's registered, you know,
On the
just
very
like your
back page.
sticker on your license plate or vehicle. But then we
Number
also
3.
have to purchase a trail permit sticker. So it like, you know, every ATV is gonna get a registration sticker. It should, it's supposed to get one, you know, every year you're supposed to get an updated sticker. But I think if you did some kind of a sticker for road use, it'd be just like the trail permit sticker that we buy for sleds. I could have a registered snowmobile in Iowa, but if I'm on a trail without that trail permit, I can get fined. So, and that money is used towards grooming and trail stuff, but they do.
If you're on state property like Winter Carnival, Okoboji, you've gotta have stickers on your ATVs or they'll write you a ticket.
In addition to your state,
Your state registered vehicle, it has to be.
Yeah, you just have your state registration.
so if you're doing something illegal up there, they'll reference that state vehicle number.
I suppose.
Yeah, I would think, but I don't.
Do the snowmobiles have a identification number on them that you can
Yep.
see?
Yep.
Like a
There's
boat?
Like
Like
boats.
a boat?
There's a vehicle identification number stamped in the frame.
Well, I'm talking about one that's visible from, like.
Oh, yeah,
boats
like,
that.
yeah, like if you go, there's no big number, like an Iowa registration number, there's no big number, but there is a definite, year-to-year different colored sticker, so if I'm going down the ditch and Ted sees me in the ditch, you know, if you know what color the sticker is for the year, you can identify, it's gotta be affixed to the windshield of the snowmobile.
But there's no identification that he can look up and
Visit
say, oh,
with
that.
reporters.
Not without stopping and
Find out how.
you have to carry your registration just like you do your car.
Every
It better
year,
match
same
the
time
VIN number
every
on
year.
the sled, and it better match the sticker that comes
You
with
know,
it,
the
so.
sticker
But
color.
there again, you got.
You have to stop.
We have to stop.
Right, yeah, I can't just,
We don't
just
do it
stop
at
the
the
boat
same
when
time
you
as your
see it go
birthday.
by and call it.
Until you get a sticker for 14.
See, I think that's what, I think it was Webster County was gonna go to plate.
You'd have to
Stickers on
go
that.
out
It is
and
a
say,
stream.
you just say a big sticker, you'd have to.
Can the county do their own plate?
The farm one that I have is
They don't issue plates.
about like
Is
that.
it?
They just
And
issue the
it's not
sticker, the
very big.
registration, and the title.
Yeah.
So there are no plates issued from the recorder. So I don't know why you would need a plate if you have a
Yeah,
registration
that's,
sticker.
should have been in there.
Yeah, we,
Yeah, so you could probably take that, what is that, E out, or that 3,
Yep,
sub 5, section 5, sub 3 out.
yep.
except that you need to set your cost.
Well, I just
Well, your
straight
cost
plate.
is when you're paying to register it.
Yeah, this is the state, that's not the county.
Who cares?
Um,
Are we double taxing them?
Well, it doesn't make any difference on a vehicle, if it's
Yeah.
registered with the state, then it's automatically good for.
I mean, unless you guys are looking for a revenue stream.
Overthinking this
thing
thing.
to play is if you wanna get revenue off this,
Supervisor.
this is gonna be another,
We don't need the.
right, I don't think it's a step that we
Yes.
take.
What? Yeah.
Are you gonna rewrite this one? There, I have one question.
every year with this.
All through this thing, it refers to resolution. But when you get back to 7 and 8,
Make sure
it
you're
talks about ordinance.
Yeah.
If it becomes
Well,
an ordinance, then we have to do the 3
So you're
readings.
saying register, you register your vehicle, you register it as a,
Can,
well, you said more expensive for having 2 separate stickers.
that's what we have to do. Wait, just read, this is a resolution to become an ordinance.
Use or not, as long as it's sticker, as long as it's a registered vehicle.
Oh, okay, so.
I don't know.
Well,
That's
the title says resolution
resolution
permitting the operation of off-road
That's
vehicles.
what you're saying, okay.
And then back here it says, this
To the
ordinance
county?
shall become effective, blah, blah, blah. So we probably should have a little clarification. And I noticed it did the same thing in the one from Crawford County.
I think it's gonna have to be an ordinance. I don't think.
Which is fine, I
Yeah,
just,
we just need to make sure we're calling it whatever we're calling it.
yeah.
If you go with this,
Yeah, the way this is
Quarter.
proceeded,
why do you do that?
we adopt the resolution installing the ordinance.
Should've-
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Acreage down here.
But you're saying May 19th?
Well, he doesn't have that extra sticker, so he shouldn't be riding with his neighbor, can he?
Yeah.
It might double, make him pay twice. I just,
But it's, I'm just saying, they want for revenue stream.
Well, Renell, we could,
The only thing that's
you know, move forward,
if you see it,
just,
you know, you're not close enough.
Well, you're right.
you know, we put
But
it
if you only
as
have one sticker on, you don't.
an additional conversation next,
Just wait
next
it out.
regular board meeting on, before we go any
Of course,
farther.
they had stickers from other counties. you
So
go-
we need it on the
Well,
agenda.
and that's what I'm saying, if you just go with the recorder sticker, you can run it, I mean, we can
Well,
run
let's
this to
just say
figure
no
out where
action
it
was
belongs
taken.
to.
No, yeah,
Without the sticker
That'll
number,
give
but-
Ben time to
but if you
rewrite it,
have a
and then we
city
can
of Wa-
set up a
Lakeview
public
sticker
hearing.
number, a city of Sac
Yeah,
City
we
sticker
won't take
number,
it,
and an
you
Odebo
know,
sticker
maybe we'll
number.
take action next
you
week,
know.
maybe not.
Yeah.
We don't have immediate access to who it belongs to.
I don't agree with, the not wanting to get it productive.
So if we did that, you still have to get cities to
Okay.
operate.
How's that sound?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
We
Or just
we had a
Yeah.
discussion with the DOT recently, about the, how they dispose of this property, and he gave us a website thing, and Ron's gonna check
Ron.
into it.
If you have any more questions or any
After we
other concerns
talk to
about
you
that,
guys.
between now and Monday, call me. Or-
I'll probably.
All right,
probably-
thank you, Colin.
I think it was Webster, one of the other counties in that other region did one, and I think it was Webster. Oh, that was.
Yeah, and then that packet of information, if you can remember where that went
Oh,
to,
wow, we can write it anywhere we want it, really.
I think it should be considered.
Yeah.
I think it's a big, especially for the ATV people to say, we don't wanna sell more of these, is a kind of a big CYA for them.
Well, I mean, we approve
kids
this.
use them.
No, I mean, you need to know that,
You'll sign a couple of those and send them back to us.
like I said, we're gonna stop anything that's already going on.
One question I have,
Yeah.
we're not in this to
Just send a copy of it.
create
And
revenue.
then print your.
No.
And so how do you,
Print my name down there.
Yeah, and then sign
how do
it
you
at the top.
proceed with the idea that, yeah, you need to get a sticker, but we're not gonna charge you the $25 for it?
I think it's just registered through the recorder's office.
That's
Your
that's
annual
what you're
registration.
suggesting.
Just that, we're just suggesting or telling you you gotta follow what you're supposed to. If you haven't been doing this in the past, you've been really violating existing law. This is just,
So, right now with the snowmobiles,
I just
that's,
wanna clear that
that's
up.
a state sticker they're putting on those, right?
Yeah.
Through the
So
recorder's
it's-
office.
Through the recorder's
Yeah,
office.
it's done, you know, when I get a sticker for my sled, it's for the whole, I can write it anywhere in the state.
Okay.
Okay, you know, per law, is, you
Yeah.
know, being on in the ditch or whatever, but they've added an additional sticker for revenue, for trail
Yeah.
upkeep and groomer expense and.
The question is I don't know whether, and Nancy will be able to answer this, whether we need to, if this is gonna be something considered, we need to include a dollar figure, or if that's something that Nancy should, because it's not the same as the state, because she's gonna have her own, or determine what it does cost to put that on there. She comes up with that figure and gives it to us, or that's just something that's fluid and changes every year?
If you don't change it, it's just.
I would say don't even change it, leave it as is.
I think it's whatever
The
the state
ATVs are the
normally
same.
charges.
But we're not, this is the the county, this is a county ordinance on a state ordinance.
Right, I get that,
Yeah.
but as long as it's legally registered with the recorder's office,
Uh-huh.
It's just like a
That-
license plate on your vehicle.
Every year you
I
have
just don't know
to
the process
register
well
at your
enough.
county
You
courthouse. Ben, every year you got to, legally, you're supposed to go on and register your ATV at the courthouse, just like you would your vehicle.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, yeah, we already do that. It's
There's
it's
already
like
a sticker on it.
$17.50 a year or something.
So how could you tell the difference between that?
They're different colored. I mean, if you just use your regular, registration sticker for the year, it's
The
red this
years-
year, green
the
next
years
year,
written on the
there's a
sticker.
number on it that matches the registration of your vehicle.
So we don't need to reinvent the wheel and even
No.
have a different
It's the
sticker.
same way
We're
with
just
your-
saying you have to have that.
A registered vehicle.
Yeah.
It's the same way with your pickup. You get a different colored sticker
Right.
every year. You get the same plate. You use that same
They
plate.
use that same plate, but you.
One
Okay.
reason some of the other ones did the license plate mainly was to get revenue off.
But I think that, I mean, I guess I just don't understand how the county can use a state identification sticker, because this is just a permit for county use in certain places in the county.
and I think we can get by with that, because what we're saying is that you're okay to drive your ATV, UTV on our roadways in Sac County, as long as it's properly registered with the recorder.
Gotcha.
That's what he's
saying.
Okay, I see.
Very good. And then, so that, in theory, somebody from Buena Vista County or Des Moines or Southwest Iowa could come up to Sac County, and as long as it's
I get it now.
registered,
I see.
Yep.
you know. And the other thing that does is then it gives us access to be able to determine whose ATVs they are, where you got a lot of people now who are driving, or who have them,
Mm-hmm.
that don't have them registered, so we don't have any identification numbers if they get stolen or anything like that, so. I mean, this is a twofold thing.
So that we just strike that whole thing about the identification plate and because that's something that I didn't realize that they already had to be. So is what I know.
Well, no, I was thinking for our animal husbandry one, you just file it once and then
It's a
you don't-
one-time deal.
Yeah, cause I haven't been doing that
But it's
annually,
a-
and
it's a
I drive
number-
it to the pasture.
It's a number specific to that vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing an annual, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the Odie is that,
This wouldn't change that.
No.
so is the Odie thing an annual?
Yes. But they have to go in, and again, it's a revenue stream for the city of Odebo.
Okay,
That's all that is.
okay.
And
The
then
cities would
the
have their
city
own.
gives them a sticker that they put on there, you know. But again, we're not worried about what they're doing,
Sure.
because this is for unincorporated
So-
areas.
so
If
somebody-
they wanna jump on board with this, then,
So somebody that's operating, let's just say, outside the city limits early on an ATV, without a sticker, period, no stickers, no nothing, they're in violation of a law regardless of whether this is passed.
Well, right, I've got an ATV and I don't sticker mine.
Okay.
But it's animal husbandry, that's what you're sitting on.
And at what times of day do you use your ATV?
He only uses it in Cali.
Well, so you don't have to do it for animal husbandry?
Well, that's where you said it's.
It's a one-time deal
But
for-
you said they've changed it.
Well, they make some changes to, say,
I bought mine 5 years ago and I don't,
Well,
I didn't have to sticker mine unless I wanted to ride on some of these
trails,
trails.
Yeah.
but it had to be registered. It has to be registered. It's a one-time registration, but you don't get an annual sticker. You don't have to renew your registration like I
I don't
will.
even have a sticker on it now.
No, you won't. But you don't have to go in every year and re-register for a sticker. I
Well,
would
but-
have to do that.
Shouldn't he have done that the one time he did his animal husbandry deal?
Yep. The dealer's responsible for making sure you register that vehicle. It's for theft reasons. It's your benefit to have it registered. It's one time for you, but,
So this isn't so much as a permit thing as it is legalizing certain conduct. Not a
And
permit-
expanding the uses of
And
that.
but not a permit to engage
No,
in certain,
no.
to do certain activities, it's just legitimizing
As long as
the
you're
activity.
legit, you can ride on the county
what
road.
part? What part? Because right now, the only people authorized to drive these on the road, if it's used for animal husbandry.
That's
So,
so.
so yeah, you're legalizing that
Mm-hmm.
by allowing everybody in this room who has one to do that. Where right now, only people,
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Along with the extra caveat of saying that you're gonna have insurance and you're gonna be 18 years of age. That's, Dean brought that up earlier, there are some added benefits.
But how
to-
are you able to determine that if they have insurance on the vehicle, if you're only doing this one time deal, only doing this one time
Well,
registration?
we don't,
Care-
our farm
care-
liability probably will cover if it's animal husbandry.
you carry a little sheet of paper like you do with a vehicle.
And then,
Your
and then
registration.
it just
Exactly.
becomes, and then it just
And your
becomes,
license, or your
Like if you're
insurance.
pulled over, you know, outside the city limits of Lakeview, and, you know, should be a sticker on it, a current sticker, and your driver's license to prove you're 18.
but what are you violating?
And I have a copy of my insurance.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it, so just any Joe Blow can go down the road. Make sure he's got his insurance card, his registration.
How do you make sure though that?
Well,
Carry it just like you do on your motorcycle or your, if you
But
stop
but
them.
that's an every year registration.
Yes, it is.
Here's what you might add.
But I mean, if you get stopped, you have to have proof.
Authorizing law enforcement to stop any and all, really ATVs, I mean, it's your ordinance.
Right.
So what's the difference between us stopping and doing an inspection for age and registration and insurance versus DOT stopping a semi just to do the same damn thing?
I don't know. Some
That's why you're the
some
attorney.
smarty pants judge that probably, I mean, it probably issues a Fourth
But you
Amendment.
know, you can put that on, they're authorizing us to stop, I mean, DNR can stop people in their game reserves without probable cause
In their game, yeah.
on their properties.
Let me think on that one.
You know,
And how you gonna, like for like Dean, say if you're on the road with yours, I mean, you can have to get a sticker every year also, maybe it's maybe not cost you, or,
I just
Or
think
right
that,
now, you know, like, with the two I've got, you know, I got stickers when I first got them, and
yeah, it's just like I said, one time, and maybe that's all you need is that one time
We
sticker.
still, as long as we,
yeah, but
I
if
mean,
get
we
on the
wouldn't
city
have
streets
to.
of Lakeview, I might need to get a sticker.
Well, you gotta watch out for Ted being on there, yeah.
but as long as we are still using, we could still remain legal
Yeah.
under the animal husbandry
Right.
piece if we didn't want to be driving it all over the
Good
county.
Yeah.
I just see this, if this is more of a legitimizing or legalizing activity that otherwise would be illegal, rather than a permit, then you can do away with this whole thing with just one paragraph. You don't have to, I mean, this is creating basically an infrastructure for getting permission rather than, you guys see the difference in what I'm saying? Okay.
I don't,
Rather than creating, so it's saying like, it's like section 4 defines unlawful operations. Well, I mean, that's already against the law, state law, right? I mean, is there a state law that already deals with posted speed limits, careless, reckless, negligent driving, driving under the influence, obviously, driving without a taillight, can't damage property? See, all those things are already against the law. And if all we're doing is saying, you only have to just do, I don't want to say this. They're ATVs, right? One time. And all we're saying is, come on into, you know, anywhere else in Sac County, or if people that aren't in animal husbandry can also now participate in those same things. Why can't we just pass a resolution that just says that?
well, because if they're using their ATV for animal husbandry,
Yeah.
they can't drive their ATV into town and go to dinner at Villager.
I agree. Why don't just one little paragraph that just says, there's no distinction now between it's what animal husbandry people can do, the general public can do.
But the animal husbandry people can't drive their ATV into town to go to dinner.
But they would be able to if we pass
Right.
a law or a resolution or an ordinance that says, you know, whatever the farmer's animal husbandry can do. I mean, don't say it like that. Is now it can now be done by. Or what you're saying is they couldn't do
Right now
that.
they
They're
can't.
restricted.
I see.
I'd like to see this spelled out. I think this is a pretty good document.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm gonna go, you know, if I don't have any cattle on the other side of Lakeview, I've gotta get my sticker every year. Because the sticker I got, my one-time sticker, doesn't give me the authority to drive to Carnarvon and back, because I don't have any cattle down there, right? So I'm gonna have to.
By current law, that's.
Just put a sprayer on the back so you're gonna spray.
That's what I do. Just leave that bucket of corn down.
I have the weeds down.
Well, but who's gonna know? You're an honest looking guy.
It looks like there's possibly a.
On farm uses or an
There's a code section reference in here dealing with
Probably not.
registration,
Not
that it has to be
anymore.
done within
I don't-
Iowa Code
I think they
321.
gotta be
I'll have to look that up.
12 or 14, and they have to take a safety course, I think.
Is that right?
Kinda like the snow, I think that it falls all in that snowmobile stuff.
Yeah, that's another question. If the state allows these people to 14, 15, 16 years old to ride them, how can the county restrict them to 18-year-olds?
Well, but there isn't any.
If they're engaged in animal
There isn't
husbandry.
any state law right now.
The law says that anything over 250 cc is supposed to be 16 years old to ride anyhow. Okay, if you had a 14-year-old son to come in, you brought him in, you wanted to buy him a new 650, and you told me that you want to buy it for him, I can't sell it to you. Now, if I sell it to you, you take it home and let him ride it, that's your business, but as soon as you tell me that I'm buying it for him, I'm gonna say, sorry, I can't sell you this vehicle.
But that's 16.
16 years old.
And now we're saying that you can't do it if you're 18 or under.
I think it's good advice not to be under 18, just to keep some of the trouble down.
I do too. but
Just in the,
I don't
just in the
know
county, you can't do
how
it.
legitimate that is.
Yeah.
Because it's our law.
Yeah.
Because right now, we're making something illegal, legal, and we're putting our own spin on it.
You know, like the Keys girl that was in my daughter's class, she was on a county gravel road, hardly going very, she tipped it and broke, and was killed. And it happened on a county gravel road, you know, Viola Township.
That's why I think maybe you can throw that in, that law enforcement has the right to stop and inspect for registration, insurance, and valid licensing.
I'll check on that.
They do it on snowmobiles all the time.
Yeah.
They'll just, you could be going down the road doing, down the ditch doing absolutely nothing wrong. And a trooper could pull over and just say, yeah, I just want to check your registration and let you go. That happens. The DNR does it.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
But you can't read a license plate, you can't read the stuff you're going on the road like you can a car. So you can check them while you're driving, they don't even know it, but under the snowmobile laws, they do it all the time. In every state I've been in, if the DNR sees you going down the trail and he wants to see if you're registered, they're gonna stop you.
Same way with my fishing license.
Yeah.
Just walk up and ask me to show it.
So the way this is written, it would run on the pavements and the gravel, right?
Any county authority.
Does it say that on the roadbed and then not in the ditches? Is that clarified in this complaint?
It said road bed.
I mean, because there's always that discussion when you say road, what do you mean? Are you meaning?
says under 2, roadway defined means the portion of the highway improved design or ordinarily used for vehicular traffic.
Yeah.
Which is a safe, you know, a lot of the accidents happen in the ditch or, you know, hitting culverts or going, tipping over on the bank.
Or popping up out of the ditch.
That's, yes, right.
I'm
All these-
excited if you get this passed, maybe my wife will let me buy one now.
Are these, all these vehicles now come equipped with like daytime running lights?
Yeah.
They run regardless.
Yeah, well, no, you can actually shut the headlights off on them. They do have taillights, headlights, brake lights. There's options for turn signals and horns and everything if you know, people want it. I've sold vehicles in places where they take them to Arizona and a horn's required, or, well, turn signals are required, but
Maybe.
you know, it might not be a bad idea that you have to have, and you're supposed to have a headlight on a motorcycle.
That's
Why
what
not
I'm
have
saying.
headlights on?
It's already in here, it has headlight and
Oh, does
taillight.
it say? I didn't see
Yeah.
that one you had there,
I
so,
did.
you know.
This only authorizes it from sunrise to sunset.
It's unlawful to operate without a lighted headlight and taillight at such times when conditions provide insufficient lighting to render clearly discernible persons and vehicles at a distance of 500 feet.
Seeing that's at, with such times, we're contemplating all time. Running like, this is saying only when it's necessary,
When
which
it's
is
dark.
dark. My question was, I mean, is this something that, I don't know, ATV world, and he answered it, is this a standard, like cars now? I mean, that's the standard, right? Daytime running lights?
Yeah.
What would it hurt to include that in there, that if you are acting within the scope of this new regulation, that you have to have your headlight on?
You could, like you mentioned, though, they are turned offable and
But I mean, if you say that they have to be on, I mean,
They're on the road.
I mean, that might make this a little bit safe.
This is a law for motorcycles, has to be on, isn't it?
We're gonna
All
have-
motorcycles are on today.
Yeah.
Ask
I mean, there's
people
not
if they have
motorcycles that come on today, that don't have
so
elements.
they have lights in them.
If equipped,
You know,
you can,
I mean, if you wanna,
could you find out the year that that became standard on, there's gotta be a year where.
Oh,
where that.
just about, I mean, way back, everything had headlight and taillight.
1977, and newer motorcycles were required to have them.
I don't think it's gonna be an issue.
Well, I don't think you're gonna find anything today that doesn't have some kind of lights on it, whether you
Would
make
but I
it
mean
be
like
on.
continuous daytime.
No,
vehicle-
there's nothing that's continuous.
See, I think that,
They'll be turned on.
I don't know, that's just something I think that should be considered, if we're gonna, if this is gonna be legal now, and they're necessarily gonna be more of them on the road, or in places they weren't before, maybe, that why wouldn't you have them, have lights on?
It'd be
If
for
they
your own
have them.
safety.
Mhm.
My brother's Gator, he's got a orange flashing light up on top.
When I followed a planner home
I don't
last
know if
night,
you want
2
that
nights
on.
ago,
I
thought I
guess
saw
illusion
moon.
is an emergency.
Yeah.
I was serious. I mean, I was facing a tractor, and the backside of a tractor, and I could see it for miles away. I thought it was like a car accident.
Yeah,
or something.
they do.
Would they have the white light on?
Yeah,
Rotating.
not supposed to.
No.
It's bright. I thought a car was coming right at
You
me.
can't have any white lights to the rear.
Oh,
It's gotta be amber flashing, red flashing.
does it? Yeah, it was bright. I've never seen anything
On
like
those
that.
tractors, there's a position.
It was over by
just-
Gene's house.
Those are field lights.
You don't wanna have your field light on, your implement light. It's-
That's what it
You
was.
don't know if you're meeting somebody or.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I thought this one was coming right at me.
They're better than daylight, them lights are.
Yeah.
Well, do we wanna do some
Well, I think we oughta
some
do
more
some
investigation?
more investigation, research. This is the beginning of the information gathering process.
I got a feeling that the ordinance enacted in the other counties is a revenue thing.
It might be.
If you guys don't want, I don't see any reason why it needs to be. You're making it pretty simple.
And if anybody comes up with anything else that they can think of that needs to be included. But I mean, this is a pretty good document
Strike
as
something.
presented now.
Say the identification sticker, would that be a registration sticker then? What did they call it? We don't even call it an identification sticker, because this thing contemplates an additional sticker. This contemplates a special sticker that gives the person permission to be in.
Yeah, I think you could take out 3 and 4 of that.
Yeah,
If you just had your current registration sticker on it, that'd be good enough.
yeah, if that's what you guys are contemplating. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, we'll discuss it next week again.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ted.
See you guys. See you guys.
Yeah, neighbor Gary, he's got trails in the ditch. When he comes out of the ditch, he's airborne. He almost hits the other side of the ditch.
Does he live straight east of you? He had a path out in Chokes Beach Road last year. You can see where it's going.
And I think, what's it been, 35 years ago, a neighbor down the road from me was on a dirt bike of some sort, popped out of the ditch.
Oh, that's right.
Mark Merkler.
Yep.
Popped out of the ditch and somebody hit him.
He's probably 9 or 10 years old.
I don't remember how old he was.
He's a year older than I.
What was he? Yeah, I know.
So mini budget type.
County crews, building driveways in Wall Lake and Richland Townships, carrying road culverts in Coon Valley, Cedar, Jackson, and Wall Lake Townships. Blading gravel roads, giving extra maintenance attention to the 350th and 29th Street. Also the car avenues, which are gravel roads in the Wall Lake area, being used as the unofficial detour around B59 road closure. Repairing and drain tile along Wadsley Avenue north of 380th. Graveling roads in Eureka Township. Delaying work on reclaiming road shoulders on pavements until pavement striping is done. Project status, Boy River Bridge contractor continues working on demolition. The old White Topping project on B-59, haven't heard back from the contractor yet about setting up a pre-construction meeting. Pavement marking, Vogel Traffic Service did start painting center line yesterday on N14. Pending weather, this should be done in less than a week. Item 3, Fort Dodge Asphalt did finish milling on N28. Item 4, I am reviewing expenditures to determine need for a budget amendment. And so far, as far as I've got, it looks like the only thing would be the new equipment for that, cover the extra cost of that loader that we bought. One thing that I did put on there, did you guys get this letter from the DOT about the property? I did call that guy, well, I tried to call him to get him, didn't get hold of him, I got hold of Rick Skinner. And he's gonna send me some more information about that, but basically a letter similar to this went out to the owner, and he called, it's code section 306.23, either the owner or the owner of any other parcel that was part of the original parcel he bought, or the DOT bought this off of, would get a letter, and they've got 60 days to respond. And this letter then is the second stage. The letter goes out to apparently the school districts in the county or the city if it's located within the city, and they get a chance to buy it for appraised value. And then if nobody, within 30 days, if nobody responds, then it goes to abutting landowners, and they've got 30 days to make an offer, or pay the appraised value or higher, and then after that it goes to auction.
Where's DNR fit in there?
They would be, according to what he told me, they would be when it goes to auction.
Okay.
He says this letter, allows the county, which could include county
assume,
conservation.
But I assume that they were in that level.
Not according to what he told me.
Okay, I'm happy with that answer.
Is this county and school?
County and school and city.
City.
If it's in a city, the city's got the school district. I said, that seems strange to me. He said, well, it's the way it's written, he said, so.
Well, they collect taxes on it. There's a school tax on every acre.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have thought of them.
Well,
I mean, that is
I thought it was strange too.
bizarre. Huh.
But then after this letter, if the county or the school district or the city, if the city was involved, if nothing happens at this level, then the next letter goes out to all abutting landowners. And like this one, it states right in there that, the fair market price has been established at $109,600. And so, he said if there's 2 or more people on any one of these levels that has expressed interest, like say the county and the school district both expressed interest in buying it, then another letter would go out to them saying, we've got 2 offers for the appraised value. Do you want to raise your?
This parcel that we got notified on is north of N14, and that to my recollection, that was bought for possibility of a borrow pit to raise N14, and then they didn't use it.
Yeah, that's my understanding too.
Yeah.
I just looked real quick and saw it was north of New 20, and it's got the 196 project number on it. And,
Okay.
And I knew they'd looked at stuff for borrow, and so.
They bought this little 3-corner piece corner,
Yeah.
and then they didn't use it.
The only other thing he did say was that when it gets to the point where they're going to auction, that they typically will get a group of parcels together and offer that auction.
Oh, is that right?
That they won't do a one here, one there. I think what they do is negotiate with an auction company.
Sure.
And he said we wouldn't auction off a quarter acre someplace just because they'll group it with something else.
Yeah. But when we got this past week, and when we got to looking at it, I said, well, this really wasn't the Highway 20 acquisition, it was
Right.
the N14 raising
Yeah.
and 196, I guess it is now.
You can look at this project I'm up here and see which project it was bought.
I didn't think to look at that. But when I saw the parcel and where it was at, I would,
Yeah.
more.
I knew they bought something up there somewhere. Well, I guess I didn't know. I guess I didn't pay that much attention. I knew they had a borrow area up there. I didn't realize they'd actually bought it. But
Well, that's right, too. I didn't realize they bought it, but I knew when they had the meeting here at the rec center
yeah,
that they had that piece identified, but I didn't ever hear if they bought it or not.
yeah, I didn't either.
Uh,
But he says, so it's basically, it's got to go through that process where, the original landowner gets 60 days to respond, and so they got to wait that, unless the landowner would, I guess there's paperwork with it that they could sign off and say, yeah, they're not interested. And then it would start, the next letter would go out. But otherwise, they got to wait that 60 days to give them a chance. And I was sort of surprised that he said if it was a 40-acre parcel and the DOT bought a strip off of one side, and then the remaining 40-acre parcel was split into like 4 pieces. Each one of those other 4 new landowners would have an option under that first level. They would get a letter that first time around too. So, anyway, he was gonna send me some stuff. I will get a copy of it and bring it to you.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ron.
Ron. I will move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
Somebody must